All right, how's everyone doing today? Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to speak alongside all these other great brands and speakers. So today I'm going to be talking about our sponsorship journey, focusing on building brand awareness, leveraging Danica Patrick. Some of the things I'm going to give you an idea about are a little bit of background on Nature's Bakery. First off, does anyone know who Nature's Bakery is? Okay, all right, fair enough. A little bit of background on Nature's Bakery. A brief introduction to our product offering, if you're not aware of it. Frame the state of the market, why there's demand for a brand like us. If we would have launched, let's say, in the 80s, this probably wouldn't have happened for us. So frame that up a little bit. A little bit of philosophy on sponsorship, where that comes from. The origin of our primary sponsorship with Danica. It was interesting because our sponsorship almost found us. We didn't find it. So I'll give a little bit more insight on that. NASCAR as a platform for our brand. Why did we choose that versus like the NBA or hockey or doing something else? And why Danica Patrick? And then lastly, I'll provide you some examples of the breadth of activation that the sponsorship has allowed us to engage in, and then some key lessons and some takeaways if you're entertaining sponsorship, because we've never done that before on this level, and we're still in the learning process, the learning phase of it. It's only been about 4 months into it when and then we made the announcement in August. So there's definitely some key nuggets that you can get out of this. So let me give you a little bit of background. In 2012, I joined the brand, and basically, as Mark, as you could appreciate this, I inherited one landing page, a logo, and a really great product. But what I did believe in, it was the founder. He knew how to bake, and he was very passionate. And from 2012 up to this point, we were able to grow the brand significantly. We've increased our employees from 30 to over 500 people. We have now 2 baking facilities, and as well as a corporate headquarters, and we're based out of Reno, Nevada. So we've experienced some very significant explosive growth in the past 4 years. And it's safe to say we're one of the faster growing CPG brands with, of course, our roots being in the natural organic industry. So let's go back to the beginning. It all started with a gentleman by the name of Richard Marcin, who started a very successful family bakery in the Bay Area back in the 60s. He had a little son by the name of Dave Marcin, who grew up in the family bakery and learned the trade from Richard, and basically made that his life's passion. Throughout his 30-year career in baking, he was able to create a variety of different co-packing businesses, baking for major brands such as Keebler's, Barber's Bakery, and one of his claims to fame was rolling out the very first Cliff Bar, helping them before they were a major brand. And so he really understood how to bake and scale products. Then the recession hit, and he'd lost everything in his family business, and basically he was down to a skeleton crew and lost all his major accounts, forcing him to a crossroads. And being the entrepreneur that he was, he looked at what he needed to do. He either could throw away his whole baking career and try something different. I think he was even pondering becoming an X-ray tech. But then, being the entrepreneur that he was, he decided to act on an idea that he'd been pondering for years. And instead of baking for other people, he decided he wanted to bake for himself. So he took his last $80,000, partnered with his son, Sam Marcin, looked up the name Nature's Bakery, and ironically, Nature's everything else was taken. So he took Nature's Bakery, trademarked it, and went to market with Nature's Bakery and launched it in 2010. Now, it wasn't a very sophisticated CPG sell with syndicated data or fact-based storytelling. It was just basically, hey, Sam, why don't you find out who purchases these products at some of these key retailers, and let's just send out some of the product and see who listens. And so they did this, and they were able to, at some point, the product circulated, and they were able to get responses back from Costco and Walmart, which led to several test opportunities with those groups. And that got him to his first $2 million, and he realized that, hey, maybe we're on to something. And so in late 2012, that's when they started to really take a look at how do we change this from kind of my co-packing experience to really building a brand, bringing in sales, looking at distribution, which is things that he never had to really worry about before. So when he started the brand, the philosophy was to make sure that to keep things simple, have fun, achieve balance in life through nature, activity, nutrition, and community with his product, and that was kind of something that resonated with him. And he wanted to make products that were basically delicious, convenient for on the go, and affordable for people, but always focusing on crafting it with thoughtful ingredients that people could enjoy and appreciate. So what type of products do we launch with? Well, the first product was a stone ground whole wheat fig bar. Then we decided to do a line extension of gluten-free fig bars, and a product of, then we did a line of double chocolate brownies that are basically vegan and dairy-free. But at the core of our product development was basically, he wanted to make it thoughtful, so we make all of our products non-GMO, kosher, vegan, certified, no high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. So I'm going to frame this up and so why is there demand for Nature's Bakery and a product like ours now? So right now, the modern snacking model is basically, the lines are blurred. Typically, it would be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now, the way consumers are snacking is all day, almost, and at various times throughout the day, based on different occasions. Some people even snack just throughout the day and forgo breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This type of behavior has created consumers to look at what they're snacking on just a little differently, because if you're snacking that much, you're not just going to eat a ton of chips and candy bars and cookies, and so you're looking at being more conscientious about the ingredients that you're putting in your body, the times in which you're snacking, whether it's going to be before the gym, after the gym, as a late night snack, or potentially for breakfast or something in between as in a meeting. So snacking behavior has definitely changed. Also, health and wellness has taken on a new meaning for consumers. Culture has shifted. We've gone from more of a reactive model to a proactive model. Consumers are taking a lot more responsibility for themselves, being a lot more accountable to their health, and they're focusing more on health and wellness versus I'm going to be healthy. One of the trends of this is basically people wearing health monitoring bands like Fitbit and that type of thing, taking a lot more accountability. So then that creates the behavior of people looking to, again, what they're putting in their body, what they're eating, label reading, and that type of thing. And so this paradigm shift is basically something that large legacy brands cannot ignore. Again, like I said, if we did this in the 80s, it wouldn't have been ideal for Nature's Bakery. But now this movement is so powerful and the consumer demand is so powerful, it's starting to shift the mindset of these large legacy brands. So, for instance, people are seeking better for you options. So, for instance, Hershey is going to stop using genetically modified sugar, dairy from cows that have been treated with bovine growth hormone, artificial color, artificial flavor, gluten, and high fructose corn syrup. They're making a strong initiative towards simpler ingredients due to rising consumer demand. In recent news, Nestle has taken a recent initiative to remove artificial flavors and colors, red 40, yellow number 5, and 250 of their candy bars, citing a Nielsen 2014 Global Health and Wellness Survey, finding that more than 60% of Americans indicated that the absence of artificial ingredients was important to them. And Mondelez, a lot of brands like Mondelez, White Wave, they're starting to go into kind of a buy versus build scenario where they're realizing this, so they're having a difficult time. They can't build it because it's not authentic. So what they're doing now is they're starting to sweep up brands like us, like I just saw Justin's peanut butter was picked up, but they're looking at buying brands that are authentic. And so Mondelez is positioning to have a brand that offers snacks and cookies that are free from common allergens. And then lastly, General Mills plans to phase out artificial flavors and colors from all of its cereals by 2017. So I think they have the Trix cereal, and that's going to be changing. So they'll be using like turmeric to make the color yellow and those types of things, and fruit juice sweetened fruit to make different colors of their Trix cereal. So now that I've kind of framed it up of why Nature's Bakery is where we're at, and we've experienced that explosive growth with the types of products that we offer. We asked, why sponsorship? Well, from the very beginning, even when we were bootstrapping, it was very important for us to ensure that we went to market authentically, and we found those people that connected with our brand on an authentic level. We didn't have a lot of money, so there was a theme today about, well, what do you do when you don't have a lot of money? Well, and how do you market when you just kind of bootstrapping? So what we did is we developed relationships with people through Twitter, and we looked at, well, what's the low-hanging fruit for us? Us being in northern Nevada, right next to Lake Tahoe, it's a virtual playground for outdoor enthusiasts, where people hike, ski, bike, and paddleboard. And so we really seeped ourselves in the community, reached out, and started bringing people into the brand, activating at like mountain movie festivals, ski resorts. By the way, that was me going out there doing that. And so, but it was a lot of fun doing that, and the whole goal was to find people who embrace the brand, were excited about building content, and it wasn't always about the pros and the people who hit the podium. It was about people who were passionate. It's still to this day, I'll take someone who comes in last place every time, but loves to talk about, showing up at these races and participating. That's important. So with that, sponsoring some of these athletes and moving to a tier 1 sponsorship was just kind of a natural progression for us. So the origins of our sponsorship. I mentioned earlier that it basically found us. We didn't seek it out, but we did react quickly when it did find us. So our brand right now is we're vertically integrated. We're the brand, but we're also the manufacturer. You'll find a lot of brands out there that are just marketing machines, but they outsource their products to a co-packer. We actually have that co-packing experience, so we make the products ourselves. And having that control allows us to pass through that discount to the customer, so we're making an affordable product. So this is a piece of Stewart Haas or Haas automation equipment. It allows us to make specific pieces for our baking. Well, Haas Automation is part of Stewart Haas Racing as well. So Gene Haas, who owns Haas Automation, partnered with Tony Stewart and NASCAR to create Stewart Haas Racing. And one of the account reps who sells us this equipment mentioned to one of the founders that GoDaddy is no longer going to be with Danica Patrick, and this is just recent news, and that she's basically up for sponsorship, and she's looking for new sponsors. So they immediately, being the entrepreneurs that they were, jumped in on it and kind of did some stuff secretly in the background because it was all rumors at the office, but they went out and met with them. That's the front of Stewart Haas Racing with the 4 cars, and they met with the drivers, and they met with Gene Haas, and they started talking about what kind of opportunity that really is. And so the people with Stewart Haas, there's Kevin Harvick, Danica Patrick, Kurt Busch, and Tony Stewart. Those are the primary racers for the Stewart Haas team. So with that, eventually they came back, and next thing you knew, we were signing contracts. It wasn't a secret anymore. And they're like, oh, by the way, you got to launch and make an announcement in about like 3 weeks. So we were just scrambling like crazy. And I didn't know anything about NASCAR at the time. So I rented Talladega Nights, and, I learned more about it from Cole Trickle on Days of Thunder, and that was my basic education. So it kind of got me through. So then why NASCAR? Well, for our brand, we thought it would be a very kind of a disruptive play, but in a positive way, like the internet was disruptive. NASCAR has never had a brand like us, which is roots were in the natural organic industry. You typically find someone like Mobile One or some kind of oil or spark plug wanting to represent Danica Patrick. So we thought that was interesting for us. But then when we looked at the actual statistics of what NASCAR really was potentially for us as a platform to launch the brand, we realized it was the second largest television platform in sports. In NASCAR, they just embrace the brands. There's a lot of logo slapping on our things, but they really love the brands. The fans love the brands. It runs 10 months out of the year, so you've got a very long period of time. There's 38 races at 38 individual tracks, or maybe there's a little less than that. But there's a lot of individual tracks that have their own personalities and just different ways the fans interact with it. It's an opportunity to leverage the unique personality of a driver, as well as the driver as an asset, plus all those other assets that go along with them. For instance, when you have a driver and you're the primary sponsor, they have to wear your logo on them. So they're basically a walking billboard. Versus like if you went with a LeBron James, he's not going to wear your logo. He belongs to another team. So it's a little different, especially when this is like a brand play for us to build some awareness. So that helped out. We took that into consideration. It's also a direct opportunity to act with the fans at track. Fans show up at track, they love it. It gives us an opportunity to meet with them on their own terms and really try to create experiences for them and as well for us to get product in their mouths. And then, like I said, there's assets that come with sponsorship, which are really critical because you can take these assets and leverage them in specific campaigns, whether you're creating value add for the retailers that you're partnering with to create leverage or strategic partners. But there's different things that you can get. I mean, Danica, we get X amount of appearances in market, out of market. We got hard cards, we get hot passes, cold passes. We have access to her. We get production days. We have the ability to get her to sign, die-cast cars of Nature's Bakery cars. There's a lot of things that we can use to activate. And then lastly, it's just you get millions of impressions. Again, for a brand play and creating awareness. For instance, Sprint Cup Series in 2015, they averaged television viewers was 5.6 million. And again, it depends how much time is spent on the car, but you do have different variations of where your logo is going to be. It's on the rocker panel, it's on the television panel, it's on the hatch on the front of the car, and so you'll have different. The Replicom will provide you reports of X how many minutes you were on there and what the value of that is. Ironically, if they crash, you get a lot more exposure. So lately, we've been getting some exposure from Danica. So why Danica? Danica has star power. She's in a different phase of her career now. She's not as young as she used to be. When she was with GoDaddy, that was one of those things where they objectified her, and that was good because it helped put her on the map, and she's in great shape and what have you. But now it's a different phase for her. But she does have a lot of star power, and that helped get her that star power and that recognition, which we realized. So according to Replicom's Davy Brown Index, Danica's consumer awareness scores outranks Kenny Chesney, Ryan Reynolds, Jay-Z, Stephen Colbert, and even Blake Shelton. She indexes really high. We like that in terms of awareness. She also resonates with females. She's doing something that is a male-dominated sport, and she doesn't come in last. So she is really holding her own, and so she's a very strong female figure, and as well as and that resonates with females, and females have a tendency to be the primary shoppers, though males are starting to pick up and be more of a shopper. And we just thought she was a natural fit. There's a lot of things about her that we really appreciated. It was, versus what GoDaddy did, we wanted to make sure that we tapped into those things that made up who she was and not necessarily always about what she did. Danica, she's a foodie. She loves to cook. She is amazing at yoga. That's all she posts on her Instagram, that and her dog. And she loves to hike. She's an outdoor enthusiast. She does CrossFit. She eats conscientiously. And she works out to stay at the top of her game. And all those things, all those elements, for us as a brand, when it came to ambassadors from the very beginning, are things that resonated with us, that we appreciated. And I think when you take her personal brand and some of the things that we value with our brand and converge them, it creates an authentic platform that's not necessarily forced. It just happens. So how do we activate with this sponsorship? So there's a lot of different things that we can do, and I'll show you how broad it is. So we collaborate with retailers to offer unique programs, focusing on all the channels that we participate in. There's basically nowhere you can't sell a fig bar. We're in Costco. We're in United First Class. We're in American Airlines. We're in all Walmarts. We're actually in every Costco in North America, every Whole Foods in Canada, all Sam's Clubs. So we're looking at each one of these individual retailers and trying to figure out how to best develop a strategy for each one, because each retailer is different. But we also have the ability to take Danica while she's in market and have her show up at some of these places. And see, these are some of the retailers that we either are participating in their shareholders events to create value for the shareholders, or an opportunity to sign for their shoppers to sign autographs, or even for generally their employees. Here's an example of an activation that we ran. I'm proud of this. This is our very first real activation. It was semi-turnkey. We put together a pallet display with a branded pallet skirt and package to introduce our brownie product. We brought in a show car. We did sampling around that, as well as had Sam's Club logo on the car at the race, and we layered over field marketing as well as VIP experience for some people at Sam's Club. They really enjoyed this. They thought it was a great opportunity. Another one, a retail activation, Safeway. Again, very different. Running a Text2 campaign, as well as a shipper that hopefully will create trial, and then a circular, again, to create trial. Each one of these retailers is different. Their strategies are different. Their objectives are different. So it's kind of how do we best leverage that sponsorship and tailor it to that unique audience. So another thing that we can do, like I mentioned, we have all these assets. And so if you ever do sponsorship, you think about the people that sell for you. Well, we use brokers. And so our brokers have various different channels that they focus on. And so we have an opportunity to incentivize them and brokers are basically our audience, and trying to create a unique experience for our brokers, incentivize them to create more penetration-specific channels. Like if it's C-store, we want you to sell more shippers. If it's grocery, maybe you can sell it in a quarter pallet. But this is an example of a broker who did really well for us and was able to get an at-track experience based on their performance. So we talk about digital and web, and so one of the things of this sponsorship was really important was we had the opportunity. Unfortunately, this didn't come with the sponsorship. We had to pay for that on top of it. But I thought it was very important for the duration of our multi-year agreement is to take over Danica's website. At one point, it was all GoDaddy Green, and so I thought this was important because her website received about 50,000 unique visitors a month, and we could use this to create awareness of the brand, but also use it as a platform to launch other programs, and as well as optimize the content on it to help support some of our SEO as well. And then we also took a look at Stuart Haas's racing website as well, so between being able to use this and Stuart Haas Racing website, we have about 90,000 unique visitors a month that we can leverage programs on with in using those websites. So this is an example of a program that we launched on Danica's site primarily. And again, this is now fan focus. This is a specific audience. And in NASCAR, you can't ignore that this is all about the fans and the fan experience and creating a fan opportunity. So we created an opportunity here called the Fan Turn. It's a hybrid role blending a fan and an intern, and a hands-on opportunity to gain unique and valuable experience tied to a subject matter that one is curious about learning or is fanatical about. So we created this program that will last throughout the year and all the duration of our multi-year sponsorship to create value for the fans. And there's a component here where we bring in the fans. They either send in videos or they send in essays. We post the essays. We bring them in, and we encourage them to have a fan experience, and they talk about it, and it feeds into our social, into this microsite. And this goes on, and hopefully we're trying to condition fans to come here every year, and we'll continue to grow it. Now, a broader phase and program that we launched was Choose Your Journey, tying into the Energy for Life's Great Journeys element of our brand. So what we did is, again, to make it as authentic as possible, we put Danica in her environment that she normally likes. She was in Phoenix, and we said, hey, go out with your friends and go hiking. Let's do a photo shoot. And let's build a program around you. And she kind of helped source this program because she likes to be outdoors and athletic. And she agreed to do this kind of sweepstakes where the winners are allowed to pick different activities to participate with her in. So it's like zip lining or trail running or rock climbing. And so basically the winners get to go visit with her in her hometown in Charlotte. Well, not in her hometown, but where she resides right now in Charlotte at the Whitewater Rafting Center. And they get to have a whole full day experience with her. They get to go to the race. They get to meet her. They have lunch with the crew. They get to go visit Stuart Haas Racing and have a full immersive experience. And then we hit this up halfway through with an e-blast coupon to incentivize them again to continue to participate and continue to remind them about the fan-internship experience. This program, it yielded about 60,000 entries, and we had a portion where it was a part of an opt-in where we wanted to capture some of their data. So we had about a 53% opt-in rate, which was really good for us. And that was part of the beginnings of us building a strong database that we can start remarketing to and focusing on building a customer loyalty program. The car is a great asset for us to leverage as well. It's basically an advertisement that goes around 200 miles an hour. But it's also, you can bring it to retailers and partners. But there's some concepts that we were thinking about, putting Costco logo on there, the brand, maybe launching a new product and introducing that. And we have an opportunity to build campaigns around that and as well create value for some of the partners. Like if, let's say, a Costco wanted to do that with us, there's a certain value assigned to that in terms of impressions that they get racing around the track that they will receive, and we kind of turn that into value for them. One thing that we did recently, as an example, a non-retailer, is we collaborated with Nickelodeon and with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 400. It's taking place in September, and there was a big press event around it. So we said, hey, yeah, go ahead and use our car. Because one thing I realized out of this is it wasn't going to cost us a lot of money to build a lot of content out of this and get, again, that halo effect type from Nickelodeon. So there was a lot of media in attendance. Danica drove through the city of Chicago, showed up. The Turtles were like, oh, hey, there's April O'Neil. And then Danica jumped out of the car, and then they just started taking pictures, and that's kind of a preview to that race. And so we got a lot of write-ups. They did some B-roll. They also Nickelodeon created a really nice 1-minute video and posted it up on the Nickelodeon channel and all throughout their website and social channels. Another thing that we had opportunity to do, again, this is very broad, is to how do we, with the audience, the fan audience, how do we engage with them and really get them to really understand what we value as a brand. So we're experimenting by taking over a concession stand at one of the tracks, offering healthier products. NASCAR isn't necessary. You think of more nachos and corn dogs and what have you. So we're trying to create this in the mind of the consumer and in the fan that, hey, we care about you. We're trying to give you some another option. So salads, vegan burgers, as well as turkey burgers and that type of thing. Of course, there's still some beer, but we're trying. We'll see how it works, but we're testing it to see, and if we get a good response out of it, tying it to Danica Patrick, we probably will scale this. Now, at track, I mentioned at track, we're actually activating at 24 races, and each track is unique, uniquely set up, but a lot of the fans like to camp. So again, this is an opportunity when you're activating is to meet fans, understand their behavior, and meet fans on their own terms. So they love to go out there and party and camp. So we have an opportunity we have a trailer with various activities that creates an experience for the fans and their families, as well as we bring Danica out to talk to the fans and throw out fig bars before she has to race, and then we layer it over with some field marketing, both at the booth, educating fans on the product, as well as meeting them at the campgrounds with branded golf carts, talking to them, and then all of them have iPads, and we're continuing to grab their data as we start to try to build that list, again, focusing on building a loyalty program down the road over the next several years. One of the side elements of this is that we just happen to get branding. I mean, again, if this as a play to get our logo out there and our brand recognized, fans are fiercely loyal. Every driver that has a section where they sell merchandise. Well, people are buying Nature's Bakery hats that have number 10 on them. Again, it's creating that experience and that opportunity for fans to connect with the brand through the relationship with Danica Patrick. Even the pit crew. Here's an action shot of them changing the tires. Even the pit crew is branded. The pit box is right on the other side. There's 6 seats in the pit box, and the whole crew is branded, which is really great. The hauler is branded that holds her cars. Even the steering wheel on the hauler is blue, which is pretty cool. So there's also other benefits when you're looking at a sponsorship. One of the things you have to ask yourself is, who are the other sponsors that have a shared interest in the person that you're sponsoring? Because there may be opportunities and synergies there. So we're talking to Coca-Cola right now and looking at some potential sponsorships, or partnerships at some retailers. But in general, we receive some halo effect without having to really spend the money on doing a commercial. So they did a commercial with Danica, a 30-second commercial. As well as Aspen Dental did a video series, and then Mobile One did a video series on Tony Stewart and kind of mocking his retirement and what he could do after he retired from NASCAR. And Danica made a cameo in all of those, and notice she happens to be wearing our fire suit. So as a primary sponsor, you get that kind of halo effect. This was really interesting. Being new to the industry, we had really one opportunity to do this right and introduce ourselves to the industry media. And rather than hold a random just press conference with your typical step and repeat logos and people blasting questions, we thought that it would be interesting if we put Danica, again, focusing on what she was comfortable with, is bringing her in and renting out a yoga studio and inviting the media to have an experience with Nature's Bakery. Our founder was there. We made it personal. He shook everyone's hand, brought everyone in. It wasn't a stunt. It was a very authentic type of opportunity where we brought the media in to do yoga with Danica. So I guess the play was not to have them write a story of the brand, but help us be part of the story, participate as the story with the brand. So it made it a more meaningful experience for them. On top of that, we brought in an influencer that Danica followed on Instagram, and we flew her in. That's the Southern Yogi right there in the middle. And Danica was ecstatic to have her and be able to do yoga with her amongst the media. And it went over well. We had a lot of articles written on us on this, and there's still content out there that's continuing to exist of Danica doing these crazy acrobatic yoga moves and what have you. But again, it was understanding this specific audience and having an opportunity to create a unique experience around that for them. And so now we've set the stage, so now we're looking at planning for Daytona next year. How are you going to create a unique audience around the brand for that? So what is sponsorship really like? From the beginning, I kept on, there's this theme that kept on coming up. People were like, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's like drinking from a fire hose. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I ended up taking a ton of gulps from this until I actually really got the infrastructure put in place. They weren't joking. Sponsorship is not necessarily an easy thing. I don't have a huge team. And so, everyone's wearing like 800 different hats. And to make this really go off, it took a lot of effort. So, So how do you avoid this? So I guess after showing you everything that you can do with sponsorship, there are some key takeaways, and we're still in the process of sponsorship. We're only 4 months really into the season. We only launched this last August, and so we're still on our learning curve, but the whole our whole ideology around this is to learn, adapt, adjust. Nothing's set in stone. And that's kind of the entrepreneurial spirit of our founders. It's like, hey, admit to your mistakes, eat crow warm. Let's figure it out and move on. So if you're thinking about sponsorship, anything, here's some key takeaways that we've learned so far. It has to make sense. It's not necessarily applying a logo and walking away. As you can see, we could do that and just brand everything and away we go, but we wanted to create value and look at each one of those little the audiences within NASCAR, whether it was or within who would be impacted by this sponsorship, whether it was retailers, strategic partners, the fans, the consumers, the shoppers, and really try to understand what this meant to us. And it wasn't just about applying a logo. If that's the case, then you probably want to do this, and it's pretty expensive. Authenticity, does it align with your overall marketing and brand objectives? Danica did for us. It made a lot of sense. Again, when we focus on about who she was, that made a lot of sense for us to create that authenticity. And then we also supported it by creating authentic environments that she could operate in with the programs we built and some of the campaigns we're doing, and as well as the future campaigns that we're looking to do. So we know we'll get a lot more out of this by creating this authentic platform. In sponsorship, be prepared. There are two major budgets. There's the sponsorship, and then there's the activation dollars. The sponsorship is basically like the car. The activation dollars is basically like the gas. If you have a car with a half tank of gas and they want you to go 500 miles an hour, be prepared to get out and push that car. So, but that's kind of what you need to be aware of. We weren't 100% aware of that. So we had to make some adjustments on that, but we really understand what the incremental spend is beyond that sponsorship to take that and really leverage those assets that are given to you. Understand the sponsorship as it relates to the phase of your business. We're in a new emerging brand. Yes, we've had rapid growth and explosive growth, but we're new. We're humble, we're new. And as we went into this, we understood what it was. It was awareness builder, but it was also an opportunity for us to use this to leverage these assets to increase distribution, as well as create opportunities within existing accounts to create incremental product placement. So there's those three aspects of it. But for like a brand like M&M's or what have you, they don't have any problem with brand equity or brand awareness. They use this as kind of a maintenance play. They kind of have to do it amongst all their other sports properties that they sponsor. But really be focused on why you're doing it and understand the phase of your business if you are entertaining sponsorship. Strategic roadmap. You hear the term ROI. It's very important to have a strategic roadmap with your sponsorship. It's good to baseline it at the beginning to understand kind of where your brand stands. We ran some studies, consumer studies, and it just basically validated no one knew who we were, or we needed to build more brand awareness. And so basically, as you go through the strategic roadmap, which is definitely recommended around your specific sponsorship, that will drive your scorecard. And everyone's scorecard is going to be different depending on what you're trying to achieve, what kind of business you're in, what the industry is. But you'll create those data points, determine what's significant from that, but all that resides with the strategic roadmap. So I definitely recommend that if you're entertaining a sponsorship. Basically asking the question, what does success look like with this? And lastly, it's the right people and industry-specific partners. From the beginning, here's a lesson learned. We should have brought in an industry-specific partner when we were doing the contracting phase. There was a couple things that we missed that probably we wouldn't have missed if we brought in someone who really understood NASCAR, knew the contracting and what have you. Just even little things that we'd have to go back on. But that's really important, is to bring someone in that contracting phase who understands that industry. Bring in partners that really understand the industry as well, like motorsport. We brought in a motorsports marketing agency that really understood NASCAR, all the little idiosyncrasies and things that happen in day-to-day operations to activate at track. We brought in a group called JMI. They do they support NASCAR. They also have other brands like Subway and Crown Royal, which and then they also support F1 racing as well. PR agency. I would look at your PR agency if you do a sponsorship, depending on what level of sponsor or asset that you're bringing in. We didn't have our current PR agency was not up to par, so we brought in a larger agency that had more breadth and depth. I mean, if we're going to spend the money, we want to make sure we really have the people in place to help us build those, build the pitches around that asset and get the most out of it. So far, they've done pretty good. There's a lot of opportunities right now, kind of in the hopper, and they've already created about 77 million impressions with some Target Online and some other great articles that they had drummed up, especially using Danica. So we knew someone with star power would be easily pitchable. So we brought in the right agency partner to help us. And then lastly, having a full-time person dedicated to your sponsorship. That was like one of the most important things that I could have done with this. So I brought in a gentleman by the name of Tyler Key. He worked for Michael Waltrip Racing and had a background in motorsports at a motorsports marketing agency. And so I took him and I embedded him in the Stewart Haas Racing headquarters in Charlotte, which I realized that people didn't do that, but I thought it was just a natural play because he would get to know their team, he would get to know the number 10 car account manager, and get to use their resources. And so he's almost like part of their team, but they basically report to him. And so having him in place was very strategic in nature, and it also allowed me to turn that fire hose at him. So no, just kidding. But hopefully, those are the key takeaways from this sponsorship that we've learned so far. Again, this is a journey for us. We're only 4 months into it, and we're continuing to learn, adapt, and tweak our programs. But so far, it's been fun. And here's a picture of some of the people on my team. We've got a placeholder right now for Danica until she really comes to visit the office. But everyone's really excited about this program, and we hope to continually improve on it throughout the next couple years as a primary sponsor. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Andrew.